From Lindbergh Center in Minnetonka, Park TV 16 Sports presents the 2009 Section 6 4A Girls Basketball Tournament. Tonight's quarterfinal game will pit the 8th-seeded St. Louis Park Orioles and the top-seeded Hopkins Royals. Hi everybody, I'm Howard Luloff, bringing you all the action of this Section 6 4A quarterfinal game between a former Classic Lake member of the St. Louis Park Orioles and the current Classic Lake member of the Hopkins Royals. Working with me tonight on the Section 6 4A quarterfinal game is a fellow who has seen almost every Hopkins girls basketball game as well as one of Hopkins boys basketball game this year from CommunityHoops.com, Tony Geer. Welcome to Park TV 16, Tony.
Hello, Howard. How are you doing tonight?
Feeling good, even though this is probably going to be a very one-sided game, 8 versus 1.
Well, you don't want to say that too early because right now my spies have it that Armstrong is struggling as the number 3 seed with the number 6 seed Southwest.
So it looks like we got an upset in the making, Tony, tonight.
Well, we have at least one upset in the making, and we still have another 2 games to go.
Well, when you get to section play, Tony, forget about all the regular season records. Everybody is virtually 0-0.
That's right. One loss eliminates you. The idea right now for the 4A schools is to go 6-0. And in some sections, you might just go 5-0, but you got to win out to take home that big trophy.
And you also have to play really good defense.
Defense is the key, and for Hopkins, that's been the key all season long. They really get after you for the whole 38 minutes.
And St. Louis Park, with a record of 2-22, has really have to step up tonight to stop the Hopkins defense.
Looking at the St. Louis Park schedule, they've beaten Columbia Heights, and that's the only team they've beaten. And for their Hopkins Royals, they've lost to Minneapolis South and Armstrong in games that they've split with because they've seen each team twice.
If there's been one problem this season for the Orioles, Tony, it's been depth.
For Hopkins, and they're going right away with Lillimo scoring.
Lillimo gets the first deuce of the ball game.
For Hopkins, they go 12 players deep easy.
They must get in a lot of playing time. There's Greenlee, who was sidelined for a portion of the season with a back injury. Leads the Orioles in scoring with 18.2 points per game. That's Hannah Tesson, who's also a member of the Orioles soccer team. Greenlee near the three-point line. Kika Jr. goes inside, double team, loses the ball, and Hopkins will go up court.
This is Hannah Potter.
Hannah Potter puts it in.
Hannah Potter's been very consistent in the lane. She likes to turn to the inside, and she is deadly from 5 feet in.
And that was a deadly shot, too. 4-0 run for the Hopkins Royals. We're glad you can join us from Lindbergh Center in Minnetonka. In the first quarterfinal game that was played right here at Lindbergh Center, the Wayzata Trojans had no trouble with the Minnetonka Skippers, 60-41. The winner will play Wayzata Saturday afternoon at noon at Osseo High School. That's Kara Ellefson, who's headed for Binghamton. Inside the Potter, puts it up. It's a 6-0 run for the Royals.
Speaking of upsets, we just got a final from the Armstrong Southwest contest. Armstrong 36, Southwest 38.
Congratulations to the Minneapolis Southwest Lakers, the number 6 seed, on advancing into the semifinals 130 against the winner of the Cooper Minneapolis South game, as St. Louis Park called a 30-second timeout, a minute 22 seconds into the game. By the way, if you would like to order a copy of tonight's game, go to parktv.org, or you can call our viewer hotline at 952-924-2631. That's 952-924-2631, where you can talk to our program manager, Leslie Farrell, who's in our back left running one of the cameras tonight.
I've known Leslie for a number of years, and she's been a part of the productions in St. Louis Park for at least 20 years, and it's always nice to have consistency.
And she's also responsible for booking talent. That's Amelia Clapp. Here comes a three, doesn't go. The rebound goes toward the Hopkins bench with 16:15 to go in the first half as the Orioles regain possession.
Howard, I haven't seen St. Louis Park this year, but what is it they're going to have to do to make this a competitive game?
Well, they got to find their shots and solve the Hopkins defense as well as their height, since they got Hannah Potter at 6'1". As I was telling you earlier, Tony, the main problem with the Orioles this season has been depth. They brought up 3 players from the JV team in order to get some more bench going into section play. And here comes a three, it doesn't go. Hits nothing, Greenlee with a rebound.
Hopkins has fallen back, but they're playing man, and this is something they've done all year long for the most part.
As Klatt's shot doesn't go, as Allison Agather will check into the game for St. Louis Park, and Hannah Tessin will take a breather. Agather, a 6'1" senior for first-year head coach Hakeem Abdel Khalik. And he's having a rough maiden voyage of the season for St. Louis Park.
When you try to insert a new system or a new attitude into a program that's had issues getting out of the first round of the playoffs in the past, you're usually going to find players starting to get used to it. So you're going to have a lot of success at St. Louis Park. You just have to be patient and listen to your coach.
Very true, as Greenlee's shot doesn't go, it will go to the Royals. Well, Tony, that's very true with other coaches as well as other sports. When they take over a program, so again, think of about 3 coaches in other sports as well as basketball who've taken over teams and have had less success, as Kara Ellison will get 2. One example is Tom Satterdahl, longtime boys hockey coach at Jefferson, who took over a program that didn't have a winning season. And as the saying goes, the rest is history.
That's exactly right. Some coaches can demand or expect things out of players early on. Other coaches, if you change things too much, you can expect to have some choppy waters.
Another example in football was Mike Grant of Eden Prairie, how he took over a losing program and transformed the program into a perennial state power.
Well, he came in with a little bit of a pedigree too. There's the full court pressure by Hopkins taking effect.
That is a 12-point run for the Hopkins Royals. St. Louis Park looking to get on the scoreboard with 14:37 to go in the first half.
Potter gets a hand in the pass there.
As the pass was intended for Agather. But so far tonight, Tony, 5 players have entered the scorebook for Hopkins.
That's typical. You normally see players score no more than 14 to 18. Very, very rarely will someone from Hopkins score more than 20 points in more than 2 games in a row.
Well, one player you've seen quite a bit this year is Kara Ellison, who's headed for Binghamton.
I've known Kara for a number of years, since she played AAU ball back in 7th grade. And I know the Binghamton coach. She actually played some ball for me at a semi-pro league here in the Twin Cities area about 15, 16 years ago, before she went to coach at North Dakota State, when she was assistant coach at Hastings and won a state title there.
How well do you think she'll make the transition to playing Division I ball at Binghamton?
The way Brian Cosgrove runs his program, if a player out of Hopkins has trouble making a transition to a Division I program, it's not going to be because of a lack of work ethic, a lack of expectation. It's going to be time management issues. That's all it is.
They also have to keep their grades up.
And that comes with a time management issue. In college, it's a little more demanding. It's more of a job. You have to love your job when you get to college.
Well, one player from Hopkins, Tony, who just recently went to Division I, is Caitlin Lillimo.
Yes, she's at Yale, I believe. Is that what you're referring to?
Yes.
Yeah, she's finishing up her senior year at Yale. She played over here in the Subway Classic this past November, and she's enjoyed her time at Yale. Yale is a non-scholarship school as well in the Ivy League, so it wasn't cheap for her to attend that program.
So if you plan on going to an Ivy League school, you got to shell out the big bucks.
Well, you or mom and dad.
You don't necessarily have to go on Jeopardy.
Speaking of Lillymo, there's another basket by Jenna Lillymo.
She has 4 points, and it's a 16-0 run for the top seeded Hopkins Royals.
12:45 remaining in this first half. You would expect a scoring situation like this with a 1-8 seed, but you would also hope that St. Louis Park would grab such little successes as they can and try to build upon that. And if you build upon those in a positive manner, then you might be able to turn that into something during the game.
Meanwhile, St. Louis Park just called a full timeout as they try to calm down the Hopkins offense, who scored 16 straight points. 3 players have 4 points for the Royals: Jasmine Mendez, Jenna Lillymo, and Hannah Potter. Well, Tony, you've seen Hannah Potter this season, the 6'1 junior. Your thoughts on the up-and-coming Hopkins junior?
Hannah Potter is a potential devastating player in the lane. At 6'1", size may be an issue if she goes Division I for a 5-post player, but I think she has the ability to ball control and play the 4 position at the Division I level.
Ball control is especially important when you get to any level, whether it's Division I, Division II, or Division III.
Yes, but the ball control that you need at the 4 position at the Division I college or Division II, it is very steady, and I think she can do that. You have 3 substitutions in the game right now for Hopkins. That's Greenfield passing to Lillymo, and she puts up a 14-footer. That's no good.
And that doesn't go with a rebound going to Mara Olson. Olson, also a soccer player for St. Louis Park, as well as Hannah Tesson and Amelia Platt.
And some kids don't realize it's so important as Greenfield scores on the steal that you need to, especially at the high school level, play multiple sports. And there's Potter scoring from 14 feet.
Hannah Potter with 6, and it's a 20-0 run for Hopkins. The St. Louis Park section is nothing but a blank space yet, but hopefully they'll get some points on the scoreboard, Tony.
Well, it would be very unusual for a team not to score in a half, especially in a section game. This is one of the strongest sections in the state when you go 1, 2, 3, 4 through the section. And to have one of those top 4 teams lose already in the quarterfinals tells you just how strong this section is and how far St. Louis Park needs to go to become competitive.
They are also the smallest school enrollment-wise in Section 6-4A.
There will be some realignment over the next couple years for the sections, and if the enrollment stays as it is for St. Louis Park, they may have an opportunity to move down to 3A.
I think that would be a better fit for the Orioles, as well as second-year coach at the time, Hakeem Abdel-Khalik.
Laura Bruce, who transferred in from Champlain Park, I believe it was Champlain Park, is in the game now.
Your thoughts on Laura this season?
Laura has not played as much time as I would expect her to, but with his loaded lineup, it is not easy to break in. She is one of the 12 players that Brian Cosgriff relies upon. Another new player in the game is Garcia, who is also checked in, and Karen Ellison has taken a charge, and in the first 12 games this year for Hopkins, they took over 30 charges as a team.
It shows you how aggressive the Royals have been playing all season. Here comes a 3-pointer. Doesn't go. There's a scramble underneath. Another shot, and a 2-shot foul coming up as it looks like it's on 21. Tricia Bartolome picks up her first.
Karen Ellison will go to the line. She made her first 2 last time she was there, I believe.
And she makes the first.
She can be very streaky, but she is normally okay at the free throw line.
3 points for Ellison. Misses the second, and Greenlee with the rebound. Kika looking for her first 2 points of the game, as well as the entire Oriole team.
Kara Ellison is 67.2% from the free throw line this season thus far.
Here comes a three. Bounces off the rim, doesn't go. The rebound by Ellison. Ellison almost loses the ball, but regains possession.
The reason there was no jump ball there is the ball kept moving from hand to hand.
And it's a two-pointer for Laura Bruce. Laura Bruce is the 7th player to score tonight for the Royals.
And you're going to find probably a dozen players scoring, if not more, in this contest.
Well, if you see the score on the screen, that is not a misprint. That is the correct score. And we're not calling a football game tonight. Not even in a dome bubble.
10 minutes to go in the first half. It is a 23-0 start for Hopkins. St. Louis Park has yet to score, but they are making progress in terms of their offensive ability.
As the ball goes out of bounds on the pass from Greenlee, going back to the Royals. As coming into the game for Hopkins is Sydney Coffey. If the name Coffey sounds familiar, Tony, she is the daughter of former Golden Gopher men's basketball player Richard Coffey.
And the other tidbit about Richard is you can see him or hear him on TV this year for the boys state tournament as he takes over Kevin Lynch's spot as color commentator.
Here comes a shot that bounces off the rim and over the backboard. It will go to the Orioles with 9:47 left to go in the first half. And coming into the game for St. Louis Park is a player who is not listed in the program, Tony.
Is that one of those JV players that came up for you?
Yes, but whoever it is, we'll probably get her name at halftime, unless she just wants to be kept anonymous. Trisha Bartholomew, her number got changed.
They're trying to throw off the Hopkins coaching staff.
Yes, thanks to our producer-director, Paul Broden, as Greenlee's shot doesn't go. The Orioles having all sorts of problems trying to find the basket tonight.
And Hopkins has now got their 11th player in the game from off the bench thus far.
And that is Tori Jorgensen, a 5'11 junior. 9:23 to go in the first half.
Jorgensen, Coffey, Weimer, Bruce,
and Potter is back
Potter's
in the ball
back
game.
in, and Garcia checked out. So that's who's in the game for Hopkins.
Well, Tony, you're involved with this Community Hoops website. Tell our viewers a little bit about the Community Hoops website.
Paris Delane is the player with the number change, I guess. During the dead ball, we'll talk a little bit about Community Hoops, if you don't mind.
Sounds good. As there's an air ball from Julia Weimer, a sophomore that goes out of bounds, as Madej and Mara Olson come back into the game for the Orioles.
Community Hoops is right now more of a blog than it is a website. A lot of the college coaches will submit material and post it on the website. I've given them access to the SIDs, the sports information directors, for a lot of Division I and Division II colleges. So if you want to get updated on the Big Ten or some of the local Division II, such as Concordia College St. Paul, that'll be the place to go. And in the very near future, you're going to see links to all colleges available to see their headlines and or link to their websites. And that's coming in the next couple weeks, probably during the state tournament.
And that should be of major interest to the college and high school basketball fan.
To the fans, yes.
On the subject of Division II women's basketball, I was just reading in USA Today that the #1 team in Division II is Minnesota State Mankato.
They're going to have a tough contest tonight with Concordia College, who had to play and win their final 2 games to get into the top 8 for the NSIC. And Concordia traveled down to play them, and Concordia is a 3-time winner in the conference. So they have tons of experience going against the national #1 team. And I wish I had the opportunity to be there, but I had a commitment here. And I look forward to seeing that box score.
So you decided not to make the trip down 169.
No, it had more to do with my commitment in my car.
And so far it's been all Hopkins, as a shot by Laura Bruce doesn't go. And
when
saved by Potter.
When you say all Hopkins, you literally mean all Hopkins. Now for Williams, Potter went over the back to get that rebound just a little bit. I think she got some body contact, and that's what the call is. But that was a good position or a good grab by Hannah Potter. But number 12, Brianna Williams, her brother is the starting point guard for the #1 team in the state, the Hopkins Royals boys basketball team, ranked number 5 in the nation. We also have a number 10 team in the nation in the metro area in Henry Sibley.
Madej doesn't go. And another shot doesn't go by Amelia Klatt. Well, Tony, Marcus Williams has not only had success in basketball, he's had success in football.
Yes, he has.
An outstanding running back for John Denhartstad. As the shot doesn't go, Potter with the rebound.
And she lost control to a St. Louis Park player.
7:20 to go in the first half. It is not.
That's 2 quick fouls for Potter.
As Potter picks up her second.
A lot of the fouls you'll see Hopkins get will be on the perimeter because of their aggressiveness on defense. Sometimes you have to control your aggressiveness, and that's what the fouls are for. But as a coach, overall, you have to love the fact that when you get contact and you get the fouls, it's because you're being aggressive.
Didn't that look like a charge, Tony?
It looked like something. It was mutual contact as both players, or all 3 players, got to the same spot at the same time, so there was no call.
Now it's Greenlee inside. Puts it up and scores at the 6:50 mark of the first half. Kika Greenlee puts the Orioles on the board.
And talk about building on little successes. Number 15 for Hopkins pressured Kara Ellison as she brought the ball up and knocked the ball loose. Kara Ellison knocked it out. It'll belong to St. Louis Park, and they have an opportunity to put a little scoring run together.
As you just saw, the basket by Kika Greenlee, breaking an 11-minute, 10-second scoring drought for the Orioles, and racing up the floor is Jorgensen for the deuce.
Jorgensen got into a passing lane, and it's 25-2. And who is this player, number 15?
That is Mara Olson.
Okay.
She's a 5'6" sophomore who also plays soccer. Now it's Greenlee inside. She is called for traveling.
It's a little easier to expect a call from a referee when you're more in control. She has the right idea to be aggressive and cut into the lane to try to get a shot, but you have to be a little more body control, body centered. She'll get there if she has the opportunity. She's got 1 more year left.
Meanwhile, Agatha is back in for St. Louis Park. And I'm sure during the offseason, Tony, she'll work on body control, as Brianna Williams now has 4 points. The Royals are up by 25.
St. Louis Park has figured out to try to beat Hopkins full court pressure by going over the top. They've had a couple of successful passes now.
Greenlee for 3 doesn't go. Williams with the rebound. She brings it into the front court. Over to Lillimov. Bounce pass inside, puts it up and scores. Ellison with 5 points.
The one thing I like about St. Louis Park defensively is they're staying man-to-man. They're not going back into a zone to try to relax. They're trying to develop some skills, take advantage of this opportunity against a highly skilled team. Go ahead.
There was a 3 for Reed Madej. Second player to score for the Orioles as the jumper doesn't go from Chelsea Garcia. Madej with the rebound.
St. Louis Park, for the most part, has stayed man-to-man, and that's a skill development defense right now. And this is something that St. Louis Park will be able to build upon for next year. If they stay man-to-man, they'll understand what they need to do defensively as well as offensively to improve.
There was a foul inside on Mendez. Her first personal. And both teams now have 4 fouls, with both teams putting in substitutions. 12-14, Taylor Latvala and Trisha Bartolome are back in for St. Louis Park.
If St. Louis Park scores here, if you're the Hopkins coach, do you call timeout because of the run?
I don't think so. With a 24-point lead, I don't think they'll call timeout. 4:28 to go in the first half. Latvala for 3. Rolls around, doesn't go. Ellefson with a rebound, as Brian Cosgrip will take a 30-second timeout.
Ellison had nobody to pass it to. She is surrounded by St. Louis Park players. She was on the floor, already used her dribble. That's probably a smart move to preserve the possession.
It looked like she was boxed in by a few players in white jerseys, Tony.
Well, the maximum would be 5, so. Slew would be a better word. How about that? A slew of players.
How about a flock?
A flock is more than 5, I think.
Well, if you just joined us, Hopkins scored the first 23 points of the game before Keeker Greenlee found the basket with 6:50 to go in the first half. And that's where we stand here in the Section 6 4A quarterfinals at Lindbergh Center in Minnetonka. Here comes a 3-pointer, counted. Chelsea Garcia with becoming now the 9th player to score for the Royals tonight.
And it's only first half.
32-5 in favor of Hopkins. Greenlee looking for an open white jersey. Defended by Ellison. A long 3 doesn't go.
She had nobody to pass it to. She was getting close on a 5-second closely guarded call for a turnover, and she had to do something, so she put up a prayer of a shot. And it wasn't a bad shot because she was pretty close, as you see it on the replay. Park ball on the inbounds.
Yes, it looked like she faked to her right and had the chance to make the 3, but it was close and off the rim on the right side. The Orioles will get the ball back with all 3s on the clock to go in the first half.
Do you think maybe St. Louis Park will try to shoot at 3 because of that?
I
Nope.
think so. Agatha hits the bottom.
But number 33 got the rebound.
Here comes the jumper that doesn't go, tipped away by Bartolome. As number 12, who's not listed in the program, almost taken away, but 12 regains possession. A 10-second violation on St. Louis Park. As Stephanie Ritchie, a 5'10 junior, comes into the game for the Orioles.
And we've seen our 12th player come off the bench now for Hopkins.
Jewel Muga comes in for the Royals.
Eula Mugga is the pronunciation. Eula Mugga.
Eula Mugga. Didn't she have a sister who played last year, Hannah?
Either last year or the year before. Wide open up here for St. Louis Park.
Here comes Ritchie. Puts it up and goes in. Stephanie Ritchie with her first 2 points of the game. The lead is 27. 2:38 to go in the first half. Greenlee almost stole the ball away. Here comes a layup that goes in. Weimer with her first deuce. The lead is 29. At the rate things are going, Tony, it looks like there'll be running time in the second half.
Running time will not happen until the 9-minute mark. it is interpreted or meant to be fourth quarter situation, and when you're playing two halves, that's when the breakdown comes for the run time.
Well, Tony, you've probably seen a number of running time games this season. What do you think of the new running time rule in basketball?
Surprisingly, I have not seen a lot of run time situations. I've seen probably 2 or 3. And my thoughts on the run time, the purpose of the run time is to prevent coaches from scheduling games that they don't need to be scheduling, that they clearly outclass the other team, just so their roster can stack their points or stats. It is regrettable that just a few coaches took advantage of the non-mercy rule situation for that purpose, but for the most part, coaches do a very good job of scheduling competition for competition, not for stats.
Not only was the mercy rule introduced in basketball this year, it was also enacted in football.
Well, it's been around for football for a long time. They just tweaked it a little bit. And it's been around for baseball and softball. So it's not a new concept. It's just something that is unfortunate to come into the basketball world because some coaches abused scheduling power.
Here comes a jumper that doesn't go. The rebound by Chelsea Garcia. Garcia goes up floor to Muga. Brings it back to Garcia. Goes inside, puts it up, and goes in.
Laura Bruce, the transfer from Champlin Park.
Bruce with 4 points. The lead is 32 as we head into the final minute of the first half. That's Latvala. A bounce pass to Olsen. Back to Latvala, puts up the 3, hits nothing. It will go to the Royals with 44.5 seconds to go in the first half.
Well, it sounds like this is the kind of game that you expected. What is it that St. Louis Park needs to do, in your mind, to improve for next year?
They have to get more depth. When they went into the season, they had only 8 bodies on the varsity roster. They have to promote to get more people, more kids interested in playing basketball at the varsity level. And they also have to build on experience as well as returning veterans like Kika Greenlee and Mara Olsen. And they got to get some talent inside too, with Agatha graduating.
Sounds like St. Louis Park just needs to hit the books and get on the floor and put the work in.
They also got to work hard during the off season. 6.2 seconds remaining as the foul is on Mara Olsen. 1 foul away from the 1-and-1s. As the shot doesn't go by Jorgensen. As the first half will come to a close in the quarterfinals of the Section 6 4A tournament with Hopkins leading by 32. We'll take a break and we'll be back with the second half of the Section 6 4A quarterfinal game between the St. Louis Park Orioles and the Hopkins Royals. You're watching Section 6 4A girls basketball on Park TV 16.
We love our pets. Our pets are family to us. But disasters can take you by surprise and change your entire life in a second. It's up to you to make sure your family is safe. And as you know, your family includes your pets. The best thing you can do is prepare. I'm John Goodman, And here in New Orleans and the Gulf Coast, we have learned firsthand a lesson that everyone can benefit from. Have a plan in place before something happens. To find out how to better protect your family, including your pets, in the event of an emergency, please visit the ASPCA website, be a responsible pet parent, and be prepared.
Back at Lindbergh Center in Minnetonka, Howard Luloff, along with Tony Geer, for the second half of the 2009 Section 6-4A Girls Basketball Tournament between the St. Louis Park Orioles and the Hopkins Royals. The Royals with a 32-point lead going into the second half. They scored the first 23 points of the game.
It'll be interesting to see how Hopkins comes out offensively, and throwing the pass to no one that's standing there is not the positive thing to do.
You have to keep moving.
People can't hear you shake your head, Howard.
As Greenlee will bring it up. Greenlee with 2 points in the first half. Leading scorer for Hopkins, Hannah Potter, 6 points. 11 players scored in the first half for the Royals. As the Royals go back on offense with Jenna Lillimo, a 5'9" senior. Defended by Latvala. Brings it over to Lillimo. Inside, puts it up and in. Hannah Potter with 8 points.
Hannah Potter, when she gets that ball inside, the most positive thing that she does not do is put the ball on the floor unnecessarily. As you can tell, the guards, when they bring the ball to the floor, they've already checked for air. There's no reason to do that when you're in the lane.
Now that's good ball control, Tony.
Exactly.
That's Greenlee. Back around the three-point area. Defended by Potter. Long three, rolls around, doesn't go. The rebound goes to Lillimo. Now that's Brianna Williams, defended by Latvala. Ellefson. Back to Lillimo. Deflected and picked up by Latvala.
I would hope for St. Louis Park, you measure your little successes in this game and forget about the score.
He just built toward the future as Latvala. Three-pointer hit nothing.
Yeah, but you can't ignore the seniors and the work they've put in over the last number of years either. You got to give them a chance, an opportunity to play in a positive as possible environment. Nice give and go, Potter and Lillimo.
And it will go to
St. Louis Park
St.
on
Louis
the ultimate
Park
possession.
on the possession. As for the seniors, Tony, it's their last game. So they got to make the most of the opportunity before the season comes to an end.
And the end is coming before 10 o'clock tonight.
16 minutes.
I was talking with the lead official, Mike Bronson, and when I was at the state hockey tournament, the mercy rule for the girls hockey is 6 goals, a 6-goal lead, then it's run time in the third period. But because it's a state level competition, they did not do run time at the state tournament this year. So my question for him was, when this gets to 35, and it is, do you do run time because it's a state level competition once you get to the 9-minute mark? And he said that he's not been told differently to not do the run time.
Well, if he does referee the state tournament, I'm sure he'll find out from tournament director Lisa Lissamore.
Or official supervisor Robinson. Jimmy Robinson.
Meanwhile, the lead is 36 with 15-14 to go in the game.
Run time will not happen until the 9-minute mark,
which is about 6 minutes away. Well, getting to a look at the sections in Class 4A, going numerically as there's a foul, which we'll get to in just a moment.
I have my notes in front of me. Ask away, Howard. What do you want to know?
Well, first, there's a foul on Hannah Tesson. who picks up her the first team foul as we go into Section 1 4A. It looks like it's going to be one of the two Rochester schools. With Hannah Tesson scoring.
Yeah, Rochester Century got off to a rough start this year early, but they did beat a power in Section 2 in Minneapolis Roosevelt to begin the year. They are a much improved team over last year. I would suspect that with their 31 QRF ranking versus Rochester John Marshall's QRF ranking of 19, it's going to be a competitive final.
Amelia Clack puts in her first deuce. The lead is down to 34.
Other teams in that section: Rochester, Mayo, Owatonna, Northfield, Winona, Hastings, and Farmington.
Farmington's the number 3 seed, led by Kirsty Roddig. But the one section to watch for, Tony, is Section 2 4A. You just can't pick a winner since you got several good teams, including Chaska, Bloomington, Kennedy, and Richfield.
And Eden Prairie. When you talk about 6-4A, which is the section that we're looking at now, and the top 3-4 teams being ranked in the top 10 or 12 in the QRF, boy, you look at this section 2, and 5 teams in the top 15. Chaska, Eden Prairie, Kennedy, Richfield, Edina, and then Prairie Lake number 24 right away at 13 and 13. And no slouches in Jefferson or Shakopee either. That will be the competitive section from top to bottom, although Southwest is starting to prove me wrong already.
Well, I'll tell you, Tony, I'm not going to pick a winner in that section. It could be one of any of the teams in that section, too.
The favorite from the heart for me is Richfield. Kennedy has gone through some adversity, losing 2 players to Minneapolis Roosevelt, one at the beginning of the season after a couple of games played. They have played very well as of late as a team, so I would suspect that Kennedy can get by Eden Prairie. Richfield, I think, can handle Chaska, although Chaska is the most steady team from top to bottom outside of Hopkins that I've seen this year. Centennial is close, but we'll get to them in a minute as we go through the other sections.
But one player who left Kennedy to go to Roosevelt is Shaquilla Bowler.
Kalana Edwards is also a player that left. She's a sophomore.
As a shot from Jill Greenfield goes in, she has 4 points. As we go into Section 3-3A, it looks like the team to beat is Lakeville North.
And Apple Valley beat them last week. And Apple Valley has the number 6 seed. So the 6 seeds are doing well in sections that we're looking at so far. Southwest being a 6 seed. Apple Valley is playing their best ball of the season, beating both Lakeville teams this past week. Lakeville South, which was somewhat expected, but Lakeville North beating them by 3.
Well, Tony, that's one example of a team that's getting hot at the right time.
Apple Valley has to get by Egan, which is going to be a tough matchup. Egan is a very young, up-and-coming team. The daughter of a point guard that I participated in basketball with when I was in high school, David Hart. His daughter is a freshman. She's playing well out there as well.
Well, getting back to Lakeville North, one of the top players for the Panthers this season has been 6'4" junior, Cassie Rockel.
Cassie's been playing well in the lane. She's the heart and soul of the team, but let's not forget former coach at Augsburg who coached Devin George, now in the NBA, has a daughter participating on that team as well, and that's Ammons.
As the layup goes in by Jill Greenfield, she has 6 points. Well, as we go into Section 4-4A, the defending champion has also been the 2-time state champion, St. Paul Central. But this year, Tony, they got a tougher road with Woodbury, the top seed.
Central has dominated their section wherever they've been for the last number of years. It is possible that Central will be able to come out of this section. Woodbury is a very strong team. Central had a lesson given to them last Saturday in the Twin Cities versus Minneapolis South. They discovered a few things that they need to work on or understand. Central apparently did not go into that game with the proper mindset. It was just a game that had to be played because it was on schedule, and they were already looking ahead to sections.
So it looks like a two-team race in 4A. Woodbury, St. Paul Central make it 3 with White Bear Lake.
Well, you can't count out White Bear Lake. You can't count out Stillwater or Tartan. Tartan's come on strong as of late. But to be honest with you, I honestly expect Central to beat White Bear Lake and compete with Woodbury in the final.
As Greenlee has a shot at a three-point play, she has 4. And she accomplishes that. Kika Greenlee with 5 points. The lead is down to 41 with 11:40 to go. As we take a look at Section 5, you can sum it up in one word, Tony: Centennial.
Well, having that one word means so many different things because Osseo just surprised them last year in the final. You also got Champlain Park, got the number 3 seed, 16 in the QRF with a 21-5 record. Even losing, go ahead.
Mara Olson with a bullseye.
When Champlain
First
Park
3 of the game.
When Champlain Park lost Laura Bruce to Hopkins here, Champlain Park was not expected to compete as strongly as they have. But they're a team that can come out of this, and don't forget, Maple Grove has beaten Minneapolis South. They're the number 4 seed.
Well, Centennial with a number 2 seed.
Centennial number 2 ranking in the state. Number 1 seed in that section. The big question, there's 2 questions for Centennial. The big one is Megan Knight. Is she going to be healthy enough to compete and make this team as strong as possible? And 2, will Centennial remember last year and stay focused on finishing the year strong?
They also got to get good play from Bridget Schuneman and Megan Wojtaszek.
I don't think that's going to be a question from those 2 players.
As we look at the brackets.
Yep, we're looking at the brackets. We see the upset from Minneapolis Southwest already in 6AA. And that's the next section to talk about. Hopkins, in the seeding meeting, it was a tie between South and Hopkins for the number 1 seed. And it literally came down to a flip of the coin, I guess, is the best way to put it. Because 3 teams in the section, Wayzata, Cooper, and Southwest, had Minneapolis South as the number 1 seed, St. Louis Park, Cooper, and Armstrong had Hopkins as the number 1 seed. So even though Minneapolis South is rated number 1 in the state, because of what appears to be a coin flip, but I don't know for sure, Hopkins got the 1 seed. Hopkins and South split throughout the season. Hopkins won when South was depleted. And South won in the Holiday Championship game here on this floor in front of us. Both teams sort of at full strength. And I just think that it's going to be the state title game when that section final comes.
So it could be another Hopkins-Minneapolis South section final. But don't count on Armstrong.
Oh, you can count on Armstrong because they got beat by Southwest.
And Armstrong has been eliminated. But they had some top talent, including Nicole Dewar.
Dewar was an excellent shooter, and Armstrong was a very disciplined shooting team from what I saw out of them the 3 times I saw them, including the night that they beat Hopkins. But I'm waiting to find out what happened in that game. I got somebody over there that's looking at that for me, and it's going to give me a report later tonight. But wow, it really surprised me. Rob Grace at Southwest is in his 4th or 5th year over there. He's got a young, up-and-coming team. They're going to compete well in the city in the near future. I just didn't think they'd be able to compete with Armstrong today.
This is also one team that has never played in the state tournament.
Southwest and Armstrong both.
But a note on Nicole Dewar, by the way, of Armstrong. She'll be playing next season at UW Green Bay.
Green Bay's got a nice collection of talent, including Sensen, who played here at Hopkins.
And another 2 for 33.
Coffee.
That is Sidney Coffey.
Number 21 for St. Louis Park.
A 3 for Bartolome. Sidney Coffey. Before we get back to the sections, Tony, your thoughts on the development of Sidney Coffey?
Well, this whole Hopkins team, once you get past the 6 seniors, they're going to be back next year. Coffey's a very disciplined shot. As a freshman, she has a lot to work on, but in the summer and early fall, I did see a lot of improvement in her as the 4 months went along. With her father guiding the way and picking and choosing the spots to get coaching for her, she can turn out to be one of the state's finest players when all said and done.
And even better, she has 3 more years to go since she's a freshman.
Yes.
She is also at the free throw line and makes the first. It is a 42-point lead for the Royals as we're 14 seconds away from running time. As Hopkins, barring a major collapse, will win their 25th game of the season. As Hopkins will make the second.
I think major collapse is an understatement. Do you want to talk about Section 7-4A real quick?
Actually, yes. But the one team to watch for is St. Francis. It's Len Messerschmidt has another outstanding team this season.
Yes, St. Francis, 23-3 coming into sections. You look at the section, it's a fairly balanced section with Forest Lake 15 and 11, the number 2 seed, because they beat some people in their section, especially an upset last week.
Len Messerschmidt has had a couple of teams in the last few years over at the Target Center.
Blaine was upset-minded last year as they went to the finals of that section, and you can't count out Cambridge, Guy Sanders. Very balanced section from top to bottom, honestly.
And so far, they've got 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12 players have entered the scorebook tonight for the Royals.
And the Royals have played, it looks like 15.
As we are now in running time with a 44-point lead. As we wrap up Class 4A, we go into Section 8. Looks like a very wide open section, Tony.
Well, 2 through 8 it is. I would be shocked, and I mean shocked, if Bemidji doesn't come out of this. I mean, Alexandria and Brainerd, they're okay, but Bemidji, 13 players now.
That is 4 points for this number 53. And the lead is 47.
Yeah, Bemidji by far is the class of that section.
They've had some good teams over the years, even in the old 2-class system.
Yeah, Bemidji has a tradition.
So there you have a look at the Class 4A. As a couple of Oriole players go to the bench with 7:10 to go in the game. Taking a look at Class 3A, Section 1. The favorite, who has been number 1 most of the year, has been the New Prague Trojans.
New Prague is an extremely strong team. I can't see anyone in 3A beating New Prague, although 2 teams that have an opportunity are in the same section in Section 4, and that's Jordan and Minneapolis Roosevelt. When those 2 teams met last, it was a 20-point blowout easily by we got moisture on the floor, that's what this is.
They don't want players to slip.
Jordan just blew out Minneapolis Roosevelt, but they were without Shaquila Bowler and Kalana Edwards.
So we'll get to Jordan in a moment, but New Prague returned everybody from last year's team.
We saw them earlier when they played Hopkins, and I was completely impressed. the way they conduct themselves on the floor as a team. They never gave up when they were down by 15 or more. In fact, they came back on that game just a little bit. They have every reason in the world to believe that this is their year. They are that impressive. As impressive as Hopkins and South is in the Section 6 4A, they are that impressive.
Well, I did see the game against Holy Angels. I was doing the PA announcing where Liz Lisi, a freshman, sunk a game-winning free throw with 8 seconds left to dethrone the #1 Trojans.
New Craig had problems, huh? That won't happen again. New Craig learned their lesson. I honestly believe that they're coming out.
Yes. Now into Section 2, you got the Worthington Trojans led by Gabrielle Bover.
They played Minneapolis North to a 6-point game. North made the 5-hour trip. Minneapolis North is one of the up-and-coming teams in Class 3A, and they're going to probably move down into the 2A next year as we got a timeout on the floor.
4:57 remaining, a 49-point lead for the Hopkins Royals. The Worthington has been having some successful years.
Worthington should come out of their section without much of a worry. Although it is a fairly balanced section, they are one of those teams you would expect to see at the state tournament and to compete well, be one of the top 4 seeds, I would suspect.
Well, Section 3 looks like a very tough battle. You got the defending champion Totino Gray Seagulls under Shannon Hardinger, and the Hill Murray Pioneers under Aaron Herman. And they got an outstanding underclass player at center at 6'3", Bethany Doolittle at Hill Murray.
Hill Murray is a very strong team. Yes, I've seen Doolittle a couple of times during spring or fall league in the 2 leagues that Hill Murray played in. Aaron Herman is a veteran coach, and I mean veteran coach. She has been around for years at Hill Murray. She is an institution there, much like what Wolkenwald were here when they were at St. Louis Park.
Hill Murray, by the way, is in Section 4, where they could be a contender along with Minnehaha Academy, led by 6'4", Caitlin Adams.
Minnehaha Academy. They impressed me when I saw them earlier this year. I don't see them with having depth or balance, so they're a 2-player team, and that could hurt them.
But it looks like it could be a Hill Murray Minnehaha final.
I would not be surprised, but I sort of expect Hill Murray to come out of that battle.
Well, Tony, as we go into Section 5, it looks like a pretty wide open section, even though Princeton, with Gopher signing Katie Loberg, is the #1 seed.
That was a beautiful attempt at taking a charge by Lindsay, but she was smart enough to realize that she was late in getting in position. That is going to bode well for her in the future.
Megan Westman will take it out for Hopkins. Here comes a shot from Muga that doesn't go, and it will be St. Louis Park's ball on the alternate possession. Section 5 3A, it looks like a very wide open section between Princeton and St. Michael Albertville.
St. Michael Albertville, we saw them earlier here when they played Minnehaha. They got blown out. Princeton has the Gopher recruit. I don't know what their balance is. I know next to nothing about these teams, but if Princeton got the 1 seed, I'm sure they got it for a really good reason.
Well, I'm sure if Princeton goes, Gopher fans will probably flock to the barn to see Katie Loberg play.
For that first round, the first day?
Yes.
Unfortunately, I'll be at Target Center, but I'll hopefully have an opportunity to see her on Thursday.
Well, as we go into Section 6, it looks like a toss-up section because he got some top talent with De La Salle, who finished 2nd last season, Orono and Waconia.
And don't forget about the 8th grade starting lineup from Minneapolis North, ranked number 11 in the state.
The Minneapolis City Conference has been having an outstanding year, Tony.
Minneapolis City Conference has the potential to come away with 3 state champions this year. It is unlikely, they have the potential. Minneapolis South in Class 4A, Minneapolis North in 3A, and Minneapolis Roosevelt in 2A that we talked about earlier.
Greenlee misses a three-pointer, but I don't think in the history of the state girls basketball tournament, going back to 1976, that one city has had 3 schools in the state tournament.
Or one conference? No. With the new alignments and the multiple sections or the multiple classes, it's become more possible. You're going to see some realignment happen over the next year and a half, 2 years. You're going to see some of the Minneapolis schools drop down to Class A or 2A if they're not already there.
As Greenlee puts in the first, she has 8 points, 2 minutes remaining. As we're running out of time in this game, we should focus a bit on 2 and 1A right now. The team to beat in 2A is the Jordan. Perhaps, Tony, the best crop of female athletes since Moose Lake going back to 1982. Brittany Chambers, Leah Deedle, Michelle O'Malley, and Emily Clark.
Yeah, well.
But there's
they showed that they could be all that last year, but I honestly think that, and I know I'm going to catch a little slack on this one, but if Minneapolis Roosevelt develops a coach, or the Minneapolis Roosevelt gets their team unity together, they could actually beat Jordan and win that class. When you talked about De La Salle earlier and Orono and Waconia, that's going to be a very tough section, and I would suspect that Brian Fry is going to have De La Salle ready after their embarrassment to Totino Grace last year. But I think Minneapolis North, and let's not forget about Benilde St. Margaret, who's the number 5 seed that beat Totino Grace just last week.
Holy Angels is seeded 6th, and they go up against Orono.
And they beat New Prague.
Other teams to watch in 2A are Caledonia, led by Amber Sorensen.
Caledonia's having some team discipline issues right now. If they can overcome that, they might be able to come out of their section.
As Mendez now has 8 points. The lead is 53 with 1:12 remaining in the game.
I think there's some significance to that basket by Mendez. That's why she was in the game at this point. It might be like her 1,000th career point or something along those lines. So look for that in the paper tomorrow morning.
Well, before we continue our preview of the sections, a reminder that if you would like to order a copy of tonight's Section 6 4A quarterfinal game, go to parktv.org or phone our viewer hotline at 952-924-2631.
Howard, it's been an experience working with you here on the St. Louis Park Community Station, and I want to thank you for inviting me or allowing me the opportunity to talk with you during this game.
And you are very welcome, too.
I have done a few games in this system before, about 10, 15 years ago, but it's been a long time, and I appreciate you having me back.
And we enjoyed having you tonight, not just for some color commentary, but to take a look at what's happening in high school girls basketball throughout the state. One other team to watch in 2A is East Grand Forks out of AAA. They could dethrone Crookston this season.
This is a couple of teams I don't know anything about. You know more about it than I do, and I apologize, but another team that we have not talked about is Grand Rapids, that came down here and just got blown away in the Hopkins tournament because they wanted to see how they stand, but they're doing well in their section as well. So they're going to be a force to be reckoned with in 3A.
Well, as we go into the smallest class, Class 1A, the top team this season has been the Barnum Bombers, which returned a lot of players for head coach Randy Myrie from last year's state tournament team, including the Newmans, Jessica and Katrina, as well as Randy's daughter, Sarah. They look like the team to beat.
But you can't count out Alda Borup. Alda Borup has been there before, and they'll be there again.
Ada Borup, by the way.
Okay. I knew I needed glasses for a reason.
Who knows, they might have changed the town name years ago from Alda to Ada, dropping the L.
And that's about as likely as St. Louis Park coming back in this game right now.
It will take a major league miracle, but not tonight, as Tessin has 4 points.
St. Louis Park has potential. Don't hang your heads. All you Orioles out there, work hard in the spring and summer. Seek out help if you need it. There are plenty of people that are willing to volunteer to help you develop your skills. You just got to seek them out. See Sherry Crockett or your head coach, and they will help you find them.
An endorsement for off-season training for the St. Louis Park girls basketball team as time runs out on the season for the St. Louis Park Orioles. They pick up 20 points in the second half and lose to the Hopkins Royals by a score of 78 to 27.
I want to add a point here. I know I'm pushing off-season basketball and I'm pushing basketball, but multiple sports and multiple activities are so important when you're in high school, and to develop that leadership ability that you may have inside of you. You really need to get all the experience that you can as you play in high school. So if you want to focus on basketball, that's fine. If you want to focus on soccer, that's fine. But I would strongly encourage you, if you want to improve, do something in the off season, but please consider doing multiple activities, including drama, including speech.
That's the same thing with hockey. Some people play hockey year-round, but they should broaden their horizons and play baseball as well as football, as well as get involved in fine arts.
It's an individual decision, and I'm encouraging you to take part in other activities.
Meanwhile, here's a recap of tonight's game between St. Louis Park and Hopkins. There was one bright spot for St. Louis Park, the play of Kika Greenlee. She scored the first basket after a drought of 11 minutes and 10 seconds to put the Orioles on the scoreboard after a 23-point run by the Hopkins Royals. Greenlee led St. Louis Park with 10 points. Reed Madej with 3, Hannah Tessin 4, Mara Olson and Tricia Bartolome each had 3, Amelia Klatt with 2, and finishing with 3 is Stephanie Ritchie. For Hopkins, it would probably take about a half hour because so many players entered the scoring column tonight. Tony.
Who's the highest scorer, the top 2 scorers?
Kara Ellefson had 7. Laura Bruce had 6. Also, Brianna Williams had 4. Jasmine Mendez will be playing at the University of Minnesota Crookston, 8 points tonight. A very well-balanced win for the Hopkins Royals, who advance into the Section 6 4A semifinals against the Wayzata Trojans, 12 noon at Osseo High School. Minneapolis Southwest will play the Cooper Minneapolis South winner at 1:30 on March 7th. Well, Tony, it's been great to have you with us tonight. Thank you for joining us here on Park TV 16. For our producer-director, Paul Broden, and the rest of our Park TV 16 crew, and for Tony Geer, sorry about that, this is Howard Luloff saying goodbye and reminding you once again the final score in the Section 6 4A girls basketball quarterfinals. The Hopkins Royals 78, the St. Louis Park Orioles 27. The Orioles conclude their season with a record of 2-23. So long, everybody.